Attention shoppers, clean up on aisle 14. Clean up on aisle 14. Someone dropped a jar of pickles. Kosher pickles.
Beatboxing at a big box store. Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
A red minivan has the lights on in the parking lot.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Geico.
This is the Will Cain Podcast on ESPN Radio.
Look, I know who I am. I know what I've said. And Philadelphia Eagles fans, Nick Foles, if you're listening, if you're out there covered in motor oil, naked body, been sliding up and down light posts all night, if you're today picking horse manure out of your teeth because you've been celebrating so hard, go on. It's your day. Let me have it. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. 888-729-3776. That's 888-SAY-ESPN. I'm willing to take my medicine. I'm willing to take your calls. I've been wrong. I've done wrong. I've said wrong. I doubted Nick Foles every step of the way, and he made a fool out of me. Good for him. I'm happy for Nick Foles. He played like a stud in Super Bowl 52. He is your Super Bowl MVP, and the Philadelphia Eagles are your world champions. The Philadelphia Eagles beat the New England Patriots 41-33, and I can now welcome them in to the Super Bowl club. Welcome, Philadelphia Eagles fans. Welcome into the club. Over here in the corner is where we reserve the green room for the Dallas Cowboys. They have 5 Super Bowls. Over there in the corner, that's the New York Giants with their 4 Lombardi trophies. And in the back room that we don't talk to them very often, but that's the Washington Redskins and their 3 trophies. Bring your one in. Enjoy it. You're now no longer the only team in the division without a Super Bowl trophy. And I guess that means we get to do this now. SEC! Right? Is that what I do today? I chant NFC East, NFC East, NFC East.
You guys did it.
We did it! NFC East. Cancel. I'm into
Doesn't have the same ring to it, does it?
We did it, Philly! Yeah! NFC East. I think it has the same exact ring, Bubba. Actually, I think it sounds exactly the same. I'm happy Philadelphia Eagle fans. I really kind of am. I only mean that 50%, but I have to say it because I do have friends out there that are from Philadelphia. You have wanted it. You have earned it. In our room now with all the other NFC East teams with Super Bowl trophies, you can partake in the luxury items at our buffet. There will be no horse manure served, I'm sad to say. And if you don't get that joke, you just need to read up on what some of the celebrations were last night in Philadelphia. They included, of course, the mandatory sliding up and down light posts. They also included, for some reason, some odd reason, the eating of horse manure. Now, I'm not saying it was widespread, but even an isolated incident is noteworthy. So, you degenerates, you are now Super Bowl champions. Congratulations, Philadelphia. But here's the interesting thing. Beyond your celebration today, and beyond kicking me in the shins for 3 hours, here's what's interesting. What is your team moving forward? Who are the Philadelphia Eagles moving forward? Because I'm going to be quite honest with you. You are scary. And it's not just your celebration tactics. It's not just how you behave after winning a Super Bowl. It is that when I look at the Philadelphia Eagles, I see a team that is set up for the future. The model that I look at and I go, goodness, is the Seattle Seahawks. Your foundation, your talent, your defense, your quarterbacks, plural, on rookie contracts or cheap contracts mean you are going to be around for a while. I would love to dismiss the Philadelphia Eagles, but unfortunately, I believe they're going to be hanging around near the top of the NFC for quite some time. But who exactly will be leading that team? Who exactly will be the quarterback of those Philadelphia Eagles? You think that answer's obvious? You think it's clear? Well, Doug Peterson's being asked about it already this morning.
Is Carson Wentz still your starting quarterback? We have an open competition in training camp. Can a Super Bowl MVP go back to being a backup?
I knew I couldn't get off this stage without that question. You know what? We're just going to enjoy this moment. I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to enjoy it. We're going to get on this plane, go back to Philadelphia. We're going to celebrate with our fans back in Philly. We got a long off season. Well, really a short off season now. We're just going to enjoy this moment. I'm happy for Nick. I'm happy for the team. It's not about one guy. It's about the team, and like I said, we're gonna enjoy these next few days.
Yeah, but Doug, who's going to be starting next year? Who's the franchise quarterback? Who you banking the future on? Because many are out there, and we're going to have several different people on the show today, including Ryan Hollins, Sal Palantonio. There are some who have said, how do you bench a Super Bowl MVP? Why don't you trade Nick Foles at the peak of his value? It'll never be higher than it is today. But here's what I'm here to tell you about the Philadelphia Eagles. If I'm running that organization, if I'm Howie Roseman, I keep both guys. I keep Nick Foles, I keep Carson Wentz. And here's why. I would rather have two maybes, two probablys, when you don't know if you have one definitely. Now, I think this is going to come off to Philadelphia Eagles fans as some kind of insult, but here's the bottom line when it comes to Carson Wentz. You don't know. You don't know for sure. Number one, and most obviously, you don't know because he is suffering from a severe knee injury that many are saying he might hold him back from being ready from opening day of 2018. But secondarily, Carson Wentz had one really good year, and it was a good year. But being a Dallas Cowboy fan and being somebody who has argued on behalf of Dak Prescott for quite some time, I happen to have learned a little thing called humility over the last 12 months. And regression happens. It can happen. Are you telling me that you know for sure who Carson Wentz will be over the next 10 years? You can tell me possibly. You can even tell me probably. But do you know definitely who Carson Wentz will be over the next 10 years? Because over the beginning parts of their career, at least wearing Philadelphia Eagles green, let me just tell you this is what it looks like. Nick Foles, 20-11 record. Carson Wentz, 18-11 record. Both 62% passing. Both 62, actually, Nick Foles 62 QBR, Carson Wentz 60 QBR. Nick Foles 55 touchdowns to 19 interceptions. Carson Wentz 49 touchdowns to 21 interceptions. They are virtually identical to this point in their career. And all I'm telling you is this, if you don't have one definite, might as well enjoy the luxury of two probablys. Hedge your bets. Keep both. If Carson Wentz doesn't come back from this injury the way you want him to, you still have a Super Bowl MVP sitting there. If Carson Wentz doesn't play to the level that you at this point expect him to, you have a Super Bowl MVP sitting there. Don't go all in on Carson Wentz when you don't have to. You don't have to choose today. By the way, if I'm choosing Carson Wentz. If I'm gun to my head, have to make a pick, it's Carson Wentz. And if I'm the Dallas Cowboys fan that I am, I would rather you trade Carson Wentz away. I'm acknowledging that Carson Wentz is the better bet, but neither of them are 100% bets. So double up on 275% bets. Cover your bases. Better than being stuck with none.
But Will, there's always a price, right? So if you're saying Wentz is off the market, they will not trade him whatsoever. That means there's a price for Foles, correct? What is that price?
That's a fair question, and I guess the assumption under which I'm having this conversation is it's probably in the range of an Alex Smith, perhaps Jimmy Garoppolo. So what that means is a third-round draft pick plus, in the case of Alex Smith, a second-round draft pick when it came to, well, you know what, we'll call that second-round plus because we think that the Patriots could have gotten more than the high second they got for Jimmy Garoppolo. So if Nick Foles is in that second to third round range, I would much rather hedge my bets. I'd much rather have two probablys than bank on one that is not yet a definite. Now, and I had this debate with Stephen A. this morning on First Take, if you get money whipped, if someone comes in and says to you, first, third, first, fourth, first, nice player, you have to listen. You have to listen. But it's got to be a lot for me to give up the insurance, essentially, that I have right now of having a franchise quarterback. All right, your call straight ahead, 888-729-3776. What should the Philadelphia Eagles do with their quarterback situation? It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. What's up, everyone? Will Cain here. Support for the Will Cain podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, and your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. With Rocket Mortgage, you can apply simply and understand fully so you can mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states. NMLS, consumeraccess.org, number 3030.
The Will Cain Show.
And I guess I could start by apologizing. I'll say I'm sorry if you want. I'll say I'm sorry, Boston, if that's what you need. You see, the Prophet's going to lock it in today. I am taking the Patriots in the Super Bowl over the Philadelphia Eagles. Thus, I fear I have imperiled the hopes of the New England Patriots. It looks like that's exactly what I did. Just snake bit every team along the way. Here's the thing. I was wrong about two things in the end when it came to my playoff predictions. One, I was wrong about the Saints. I went all in on the Saints, okay? You know what? Shoot or shoot. I was shooting for the Saints. They bellied up. I'm toast. Second, you know this. I was all in against the Eagles. I just wasn't buying it any step of the way. And, well, I was wrong. So those two things lead to a bad record. And a lot of people saying, you know what, man? You're not the Prophet. You're not, Will Cain. Right, Robbie? Robbie, you're here to tell me that. I'm not the Prophet. Right, Robbie?
I told you 3 weeks ago you weren't, Will Cain, and you kept telling me I was wrong.
Well, okay. Congratulations. Did you eat horse manure? How happy were you?
Very happy. We celebrated.
Okay. All right. So
I do want to comment on one thing on it. Along the lines of Carson and Nick, though. My thing is you still got Nick on the 1-year deal for not too much money. I'd say you hang around and see what happens with Carson's injury, and maybe mid-season see what's going on with Carson. If we got a slot there, try to move him for a real decent pick or a real decent player, and maybe trying to replace Jason Peters if we don't cover it in the draft. But I would hang on to him for the time being if I were them. And I think, on the other hand, Bill Belichick is garbage for not letting Malcolm Butler play last night. I just don't understand what that decision was all about.
Yeah, I don't get it either. How'd you celebrate? Did you do a little drinking, Robbie?
No, actually. My wife and our daughter just turned 3 months old. We had her on Halloween, so she was there with us. It was just me, her, and my wife. We just kind of celebrated as a family.
Just a good old wholesome Eagles celebration.
You got it. She was in her Eagles onesie, and she got big enough just in time for the playoffs to wear it. So we were all Eagles out, man.
All right. Congratulations, man. I'm glad you were there every step of the way to make me face my failures. Appreciate it, Robbie. So, Rudy, let me ask you a question, because I think I caught you in an inconsistency here. You agree with me, it sounds like, that the Eagles should hang on to both quarterbacks. They should hang on to Foles and Wentz because neither is a guarantee. Neither is a certain deal, so you might as well have the insurance policy. Sounds like you agree with that proposition.
I feel way more comfortable about Wentz than you do. I think the guy's a star, and I think he's a stud. And the injury thing holds me back a little bit. And I'd probably keep Foles unless I was given. Listen, if I'm offered up a first-round pick, I'm trading him. I'm sorry. He's not worth that. And if somebody's willing to pay that, I'm going to let him go.
Well, a lot of people don't know this, but we started to get to the bottom of the take stealing within ESPN. And there's a producer around here named Dan Z, and he works on Spain and Fitz. And he's been pioneering a take that basically goes like this. You don't need an elite quarterback. You can win a Super Bowl with just about anybody. That quarterback is the most overrated position in all of sports. That's Dan Z's take. And lo and behold, Cerruti shows up today acting like he's pioneering some kind of thing, like there's 20 quarterbacks in the NFL that can win a Super Bowl, that you don't need a big-time quarterback.
No, first
Hold on. Let me totally set you up before you come in defending
Don't put me
yourself.
on this side yet, Will, okay?
And so here you are now saying that the Eagles should hang on to both Wentz and Foles. Now, if you really believe that 20 different quarterbacks can win the Super Bowl, then you should say they should parlay one of these guys into some picks, even if it's a second and third round pick, because if Wentz turns out to be just simply above average, that ought to be good enough to win a Super Bowl. And if you want to trade Wentz and get a bunch of first round picks, Foles is good enough to win a Super Bowl. My whole argument is predicated on you need to get as close as you can to perfection in a franchise quarterback, and 2 probablys increases your chances of getting one. But you don't think you need a definite. You think you can win with 20 quarterbacks. So why wouldn't you trade one of your probablys for a bunch of picks?
20 might be high. I'm annoyed. And this goes back to the Alex Smith thing. I'm annoyed when every time somebody's name comes up, whether it's Alex Smith or Carson Wentz or Nick Foles, whoever is like, hey, can this guy win you a Super Bowl? In the right circumstances, there are a healthy amount of quarterbacks, and that's probably 12 to 15 at least, who, in the right circumstance with a good defense and a good coaching staff around him, can win you a Super Bowl. Dan Z's argument was that there are only 2 really elite quarterbacks, and that quarterback is the most overrated position in sports, which is ridiculous.
You don't know this, but your positions are basically identical, and you don't like it.
I don't think they're overrated. I just think the pool is a little bit larger.
I think this is the hole in both of your arguments. Whether or not Nick Foles has the brand of an elite quarterback, whether or not Nick Foles is even an elite quarterback, he played like one. It's not like he went out there in the Super Bowl, and for that matter, the NFC Championship game, and played like an above-average quarterback. He played like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL.
Correct.
His third down conversions, his accuracy downfields. This is why I couldn't pick him. This is why I was against him for 5 straight weeks. Is because I felt like the body of evidence suggested that's not who he is over the long run. But I got to give it to him as I wake up here today. He did this in the NFC Championship game and did it again in the Super Bowl. He did all the things that I didn't think he could. He didn't play above average. He played lights out.
But is that who Nick Foles really is? Well, if he's not, look, and he was on the Rams, and I know you want to say, and everybody else wants to say, oh, it's the Rams, and they were a disaster, and nobody could succeed there, but he didn't do well there. He didn't do so hot in his last season in Philadelphia. Yes, he had an awesome run here to the Super Bowl, and he had that 27 touchdown, 2 interception season a couple years ago as well. But I'm not sure Nick Foles is this awesome franchise quarterback, and that's the reason that I would keep both of them. And to your point, it's a better chance, I guess, yes, of getting one of those quarterbacks. But I think Wentz is your guy, and if you can trick somebody into giving you something for Nick Foles, you take it.
What is Nick Foles worth? We'll get into that just a little bit later in the show. By the way, a little bit of breaking news as well. Matt Patricia has officially been announced as the head coach of the Detroit Lions. Now, Robbie in Missouri, the big Eagles fan, just called us, brought this up. Bill Belichick got completely and utterly outcoached last night by Doug Peterson. First of all, Matt Patricia got completely outcoached. And at some point, if Bill Belichick doesn't take over that defense, a defense that he's in all but name in charge of and has been on every team he's been a part of since the New York Giants days, if he doesn't take that over at some point in that game and try to make some adjustments to stop Nick Foles, I just can't believe with 2 weeks of prep, Bill Belichick can't design a defense to stop that Philadelphia Eagles offense. Now, they're lacking in talent on the defensive side of the ball. Their personnel is somewhat weak. But Bill Belichick got outcoached. That's the bottom line. And everybody's talking about Doug Peterson's cojones. And he's got huge cojones. And those 4th down calls were something else. But you know what? I saw Tim Hasselbeck on TV. Let's get Tim in here in a second. I want to talk because the ways he put Foles in a position to succeed every step of the way, he outcoached Bill Belichick. And I can't believe I'm sitting here today saying that. The Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Home Insurance. Getting a quote is easier than ever. So what does that say about Matt Patricia? What does that say to you, Detroit Lion fans? I'm just telling you, those two guys in particular, Patricia and Belichick, they have to be held responsible, and for some very specific reasons, for what happened last night. That's straight ahead. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Mike Golick here. You know, ADT, the #1 security company, can now help keep you safe at home and when you're on the go. Get started with the ADT Starter Kit professionally installed for only $49. Plus, you'll get ADT Go, the new family mobile safety app and service with 24/7 emergency response for free with any ADT security system. Go to ADT.com/podcast to learn more today.
Requires 36-month monitoring contract, QSP and Easy Pay. Activation and early termination fees may apply. Certain markets excluded. Licenses available at ADT.com. Additional charge for ADT Go premium services after March 31st, 2018.
Will Cain. The Will Cain Show is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests appear on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line.
I'm just here getting just lectured by Tim Hasselbeck because I've boxed Gronk in. I've stereotyped him. Go ahead. You feel like I'm being unfair to Gronk.
Well, not just that. I also feel like I came in here and you were like, no, you can't sit over there. Sit over there now. Like all of a sudden, like, you know, since it's been the Will Cain Show, you know, I've been doing it, you know, via phone. And so now my first time in studio, like I come in and you start like telling me where I have to sit. Like,
wait. Was it the bossiness or you felt like I'd rearrange the furniture of the studio you're used to?
No, it was the bossiness. It was like, I think you made me snap too. You're like right there, like you snapped and pointed at where I need to sit.
I'm getting big fast, man. We're adding new affiliates. We're growing. The audience is booming. By the way, what's up? KTGR in Columbia, Missouri, our newest affiliate. Hit him, Bubba.
New affiliate alert. New affiliate alert.
Things are boomtown over here on the Will Cain Show. That's 100.5 and 105.1 in Columbia, Missouri. Home of the Missouri Tigers and the St. Louis Cardinals.
Well, but listen, if you're going to keep adding affiliates, you're going to have to stop boxing people like Gronk in.
So what I do, you think I'm stereotyping, which a lot of people say, Will.
Well,
no surprise.
You just do. You're basically like, Rob Gronkowski's not going to retire from football. I mean, look at him. He needs football. He's just this like meathead football player.
I said none of those things. I said none of those things.
It was the tone. It was the tone you had, which was the tone of like, Rob Gronkowski's not going to play football. Like he is a football player. Like what was your tone? Why is he not going to walk away?
First of all, we don't lie to the Will Cain Show.
I'm not lying. Why would he not walk away?
Well, you're right. You came in regurgitating all those stereotypes that people say.
I wasn't regurgitating.
Gronk spike, Gronk score touchdown. I did say, you know what? The image is such that, I don't picture Gronk being an early retiree.
You didn't say the image is. You said, I believe the image is real, is what you said.
So you're here to tell me, and by the way, it's Tim Hasselbeck in studio giving us the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. You're not going to be surprised if Gronk hangs it up here. I
wouldn't be surprised. No, I'm not saying that he's going to do it, but I think that every few years you get a surprise retirement. You get one of these ones where you go, whoa, like, hey, Patrick Willis. Well, that one caught me off guard a little bit. Oh, Calvin Johnson. Every now and then it happens to guys. And I think we kind of had that stretch where everyone was saying, like, oh, it's a trend now. These guys are worried about their long-term health, and it's a trend now. I'm not saying that. I just think for a guy that has had multiple back surgeries, he's had multiple, issues with his right forearm. That's why he looks like he plays with a robotic arm. He's had a massive knee reconstruction. He's coming off of a concussion, and he plays a position where he takes a pounding. Playing tight end, you take a beating. I mean, he's asked to do a lot in the run game. He's a big time target, and guys are always going low on him. I can see. Look, my father's roughly his size. Played 9 years in the NFL. Like, it takes its toll on you.
Honestly, Tim, that is the part that you're 100% right that I can't appreciate. When I am saying, oh man, it really surprised me if Gronk retires, it's not because I can't picture him being an engineer at 3M. I'm sure he's got some big post-retirement plans, and I don't mean to stereotype him out of that. What I'm saying...
I mean, like the condescending nature.
No, what I'm saying is this, and I think that a lot of people like myself who did not play in the NFL can probably identify with this. I cannot imagine walking away from the virtual certainty of 3 to 4 more years of north of $10 million a year. Now, maybe he's really saved and he's been smart.
Well, in Gronk's story, I certainly don't know claim to know his financial situation, but he's been very vocal about he lives off of his marketing money. He has plenty of, he has a couple national deals. He's got a big Dunkin' Donuts deal in New England. Like he saves all of the money he makes from the NFL. I mean, he's said that publicly. Mm-hmm. So if that is in fact true,
then he doesn't need the extra $40 million.
Yeah, then the money. Listen, everyone would love to have it, but the money isn't as much of a motivator as it would be for other people.
Right. Is Nick Foles' success...
You're done with Gronk, huh? You're over it now?
This is what I wanted to talk about. You want to talk about Gronk's retirement. You came in with the stereotypes.
I just, because I could just see the condescending nature. All right.
Well, Nick Foles, would you bet on Nick Foles having a similar level of success somewhere else in the NFL? How situational is his success?
So when you say similar level,
not Super Bowl,
he just won a Super Bowl,
no,
right? So is he a starter? So
yes.
let's put him in a group of starters. So like, give me somebody that's like on a fringe top 10, 12 starter, right? Well, is that what you're asking? Like,
I think that would be a huge upside scenario, being a top 12 quarterback.
Or better than half the quarterbacks.
Yes. Can he be that guy somewhere else?
Yes. And I think that I think that's when you look at the situations, and I know that a lot of people have everyone's trying to play this forward now. Hey, where does Nick Foles go and all that stuff? I mean, let's just play the exercise here. Buffalo needs a quarterback. Denver, Arizona, Minnesota, Cleveland, Jacksonville. I mean, I'm leaving teams out. That's 6. Who did I leave out? I had to leave somebody else out.
I don't know.
So the point is, that's 6. Kirk Cousins can only go to 1. right?
Mm-hmm.
So then just start asking yourself, like, would you rather have Nick Foles or Ryan Tannehill?
Mm-hmm.
Would you rather have Nick Foles or
Tyrod Taylor,
Case Keenum, Teddy Bridgewater?
Mm-hmm.
Like, who would you rather have?
Yeah, I guess. Look, I saw you on NFL Live this morning. I'm blown away by Doug Peterson. And maybe I'm putting too much on his shoulders right now, giving him too much credit for what happened last night. And I'm not taking anything away from Foles. I thought he was amazing. But I saw you this morning talking about, it wasn't live, but it was something else, talking about the pre-snap reads that Foles had to make, that Peterson put him in positions to make simplistic calls, and he executed them. But he had to, and I sit there and I wonder, well, what? I want to throw out the St. Louis year, right? Jeff Fisher has had a ton of quarterbacks fail under his.
And Case Keenum's done, yeah.
Yes, so I throw out St. Louis. I'm like, who is Foles really? Is he the guy under Doug Peterson? Is that who he is, or is the ceiling much lower somewhere else?
Well, look, I think in terms of making things easy for your quarterback, what that allows the quarterback to do is to just go play. And think about all the talk of what Nick Foles would say, leading up to the Super Bowl. It was like, look, I'm going to stop, thinking and try to process all this stuff. I'm just going to go out there and let it rip and play. I think it's important to have coaches that can identify what a player is comfortable with and let him do that so they can play like Nick Foles played.
Right.
And so he's not bogged down with a bunch of other stuff. And so that's why I think Andy Reid is so good, because Andy Reid allows you to do that. And Doug Peterson obviously learned a lot from Andy Reid. So if Nick Foles was going to go have success somewhere else, I think it would be good for Nick Foles to be paired with somebody like Pat Shurmur or Brad Childress or, somebody that's kind of been around or been, done similar things. I think that would be important. Just going to any old offensive system, I don't think necessarily would help you as much. So I think that's where it comes into the conversation of like, well, who is he? Well, who is he has a lot to do with who he's paired with as a play caller.
Right. All right. Tim Hasselbeck in studio. I like having you in studio. I'll tell you where to sit next time. Hopefully you'll come back. Yeah.
Really? You sound real excited.
This is the nature of our new relationship. I'm in charge now.
You are. You're asserting your authority. I appreciate it.
Okay, we give Foles, we give Peterson a ton of credit. How much blame should Belichick and Matt Patricia get for that loss last night? It's Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
This is Will Cain.
You give me the greatest football player of all time in Tom Brady. You give me the greatest coach of all time in Bill Belichick. And you give me 2 weeks, I feel like you would be a moron to bet against the New England Patriots. A lot of rich morons this afternoon. A lot of rich morons the day after the Super Bowl. Or maybe I'm the moron. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. I'll tell you what happened is the greatest coach of all time didn't coach like the greatest coach in the NFL last night. He was completely and utterly outcoached by Doug Peterson from start to finish. And by start, I guess I actually mean before the game even started. Because he sits one of his defensive stars, Malcolm Butler, the defensive back, who played 98% of the snaps this season. Didn't play a single down on defense last night. Got in for a little bit of special teams play. And why? Why was Malcolm Butler crying during the national anthem? Why didn't Malcolm Butler play last night? That's not the only blame that might rest on Bill Belichick and Matt Patricia's shoulders, but it's certainly one of the big ones. Carlton, the famous Carlton. It's time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts, and Straight Talk comes from Carlton in Tampa. What's up?
I suggest there's 2 reasons why Malcolm Butler did not play last night. The first reason is because Bill is a self-absorbed, vindictive jerk, and he's been upset ever since Malcolm Butler wouldn't kowtow to his lowball contract offer when Malcolm Butler was a restricted free agent this past spring. In fact, Bill colluded with Sean Payton to limit his market value in the open market. And as a restricted free agent, he could have signed with anybody as long as they were willing to give up the draft compensation.
Well, hold on now, Carlton. So you're saying that he sat his best defensive back or his second best cornerback in the Super Bowl out of vindictiveness?
That's reason 1. Reason 2, Bill wants to be fired. He wants out of that contract that he has with the Patriots so that he can go on to do his own thing and prove that he can win without Tom Brady. And what better way to get yourself fired than to have the entire team now upset with him? That's why maybe Gronkowski is talking about not returning next year. That's why that McDaniels hasn't potentially already taken the Colts job. He may become the coach of the New England Patriots.
All right, hold on, Carlton.
Fired.
You're accusing Belichick of sabotage. Sabotage in order to get fired. Benching
Indirect sabotage. Bill didn't think he was losing the game. He could have gotten fired even though he won the Super Bowl because of what he did to Malcolm Butler. He thought his genius could overcome the lack of Malcolm Butler on the field, and he was wrong, and it bit him in the backside.
Wait. You said he's sabotaging them in order to get fired. Why? If that's the case, you got to ensure a loss. If you want to get fired for your move, it's got to be one that ensures the loss. And if that's the case, benching Malcolm Butler would be option 42. You might start with option 1. Bench Brady. If you want to lose and you want to guarantee a loss and sabotage, bench Brady.
Look, you can get fired because he's already on the outs with Brady, and Kraft has already picked Brady over Belichick. And then you do that to your star defensive player, you can get fired even when you don't lose the Super Bowl. He miscalculated, and it cost him the Super Bowl. But he was being vindictive to Malcolm Butler because he's had a personal grudge against Malcolm Butler for the better part of a year to year and a half.
I want to make sure I got this right, Carlton.
Win the Super Bowl and get his ass fired and out of his New England contract.
Carlton, God love you. Carlton, I love you. But I just want to make sure I got this clear, okay? Bill Belichick doesn't actually want to lose the Super Bowl, you're saying. He wants to win it, but he wants to win it while simultaneously sabotaging his future as the coach of the New England Patriots because he wants out of that contract to prove he can win a Super Bowl without Tom Brady. This is the theory as I've listened as it go. And in order to get Kraft to fire him, his act of sabotage is to bench his second best cornerback in the Super Bowl. That would do it. He might win, but that would tick off Kraft so much that Kraft would fire him. That's your theory.
His entire locker room is up in arms on Bill right now. We got Hightower liking Brandon Browner's tweets, ripping Bill Belichick. We got a bunch of the other guys on the defensive side of the field saying, we have no idea why Bill did this, and it doesn't make any sense, but we're not the coach. He has turned his locker room into open warfare. Gronk is talking about maybe not coming back. We already know where he stands with Tom Brady, who he threw under the bus for his cheating scandal. This is like carte blanche or the best diabolical plan to get your butt tossed out of New England and allow you to do what you want to do, which is prove you can win without Tom Brady.
It's such a great diabolical plan that only you can see it, Carlton. I appreciate the call, man. Always. Please, you have an open phone line to the Will Cain Show. 888-729-3776. It's so diabolical that only I can see it. It's so diabolical that me, with my 3D decoder ring, is the only one that could decipher this plan of Bill Belichick's. One thing's for clear. You don't need a decoder ring to know this. Doug Peterson outcoached Bill Belichick. And I don't think it's because Bill Belichick wasn't trying. In fact, better yet, I'm going to do Carlton one better. If you're coming up with an argument for Bill Belichick sabotaging the New England Patriots, I think it would go like this. As Matt Patricia is failing to adjust to Nick Foles, backup quarterback Nick Foles, lighting up the Patriots, you might say, hey, Bill, take over, because Patricia's not getting it done. I don't know what's going on that defensive side of the ball. Now, we know the New England Patriots defense wasn't great all season. And I got to be honest. I argued that Matt Patricia is the better head coaching candidate out of the two New England coordinators. Between Josh McDaniels, offensive coordinator, and Matt Patricia, defensive coordinator, I argued on this show I would roll my dice with Patricia. Why? Because he's shown the ability to make adjustments. That was a bad defense this season. It gave up a ton of yards. But ultimately, Patricia made adjustments with a lack of talent, a lack of personnel. He still figured it out. He figured out how to create a defense that was one of the tops in points per game allowed. That, to me, is coaching. Lack of personnel, lack of talent, bad start, adjust. That's the Belichickian way, and I thought Patricia had it. Neither of them had it last night. Neither of them could do it last night. That's Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. And I don't know why. I don't know why they couldn't do it. Maybe Sal Palantonio can tell me. He's straight ahead. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Attention shoppers, clean up on aisle 14. clean up on aisle 14. Someone dropped a jar of pickles. Pickles. Kosher pickles.
Beatboxing at a big box store. Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
A red minivan has the lights on in the parking lot.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Geico.
This is the Will Cain Podcast on ESPN Radio.
All right, here's the deal. I don't think you trade Nick Foles. I don't care what the market value is. Now, let me give a little parenthetical here. If you just get completely and utterly money with 2 firsts, first and a second, something like that, okay, fine. Yeah, sell high on Nick Foles. But if you don't, if you get what looks like the going trade market on Nick Foles, you don't do the deal. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Essentially, what I'm telling you is this. Carson Wentz has question marks around him. Now, you can say, oh, you Dallas Cowboy fan, you're still caught up in the Dak Prescott versus Carson Wentz debate. No, I'm not. Listen, I'm going to give you 2 sets of question marks when it comes to Carson Wentz. Number one, he's returning from a very serious injury. His knee injury, by some reports, is going to set him back so much that he may not start the 2018 year. Question marks, friends. That's question marks. And yes, secondarily, as a fan of the Dallas Cowboys, as a fan of Dak Prescott, humility has taught me the lesson that regression can happen. And I don't think with the sample size of Carson Wentz that you have yet, which was an amazing performance, but not more amazing than what Nick Foles has put together. I mean, their sample size is exactly the same as Eagles quarterbacks. Their output, exactly the same. And all I'm saying is, if you're betting on the next 7 years, you might recognize the question marks. So what does that mean? You don't have a 100% definite lock down the position franchise quarterback for the next 7 years. You might. It might be probable. But until you have definite, I want 2 probables. I want Nick Foles and Carson Wentz. Because if Carson Wentz doesn't play like he did this year, if Carson Wentz doesn't come back from this knee injury just like he was, well, guess what I got? I got a Super Bowl MVP waiting over here. And there's no late second, early second, late third round draft pick that even comes close to interesting me and doing away with that insurance policy. ESPN NFL reporter Sal Palantonio is on the Shell Pennzoil Performance line. Pennzoil Synthetics, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. Sal, you don't want to talk about any of that. I heard you on Golic and Wingo. You're not ready to look forward to this dilemma, right?
No, let's do it.
Oh, you do? Well, I don't know if you heard what I just said, but I just don't think there's unless the Eagles just.
I did hear what you just said, but I went to the morning press conferences and I was on SportsCenter this morning and this afternoon, and NFL Live, and a couple of things.
Okay.
Because I think it's a good conversation. One, this is totally unprecedented in the history of the Super Bowl. No Super Bowl MVP has been traded the following season. You've had 3 Super Bowl MVPs that have left the teams as unrestricted free agents, but no Super Bowl MVP has ever been traded. So it's uncharted territory, unprecedented. You do that, you better get more than a late second. I mean, A late second is honestly laughable. If you're going to trade away a Super Bowl MVP quarterback who did the job for you, who killed the boogeyman, who erased 56 years of bad history, you better get. He's worth more than a late second round pick.
Well, Sal, what's not laughable?
And the fans.
What's not laughable?
Well, no. I'm saying people will ridicule that decision if it happens.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just saying, look, what I don't. Is it a first? Would a first get him away? Could you get out of that? Without heavy criticism?
But then again, now here's the third point, and the point that you made, which I think is most important. You just don't know what you have.
Right.
RG3 in his first 2 years made 28 starts. Carson Wentz in his first 2 years made 29 starts.
Yeah, I'm with you. But by the way, Eagles fans think I'm criticizing
So what do you
Wentz.
have with Carson Wentz? You don't know. A knee injury for a quarterback who's supposed to be mobile is a huge issue. Huge.
Absolutely.
I'm not trading Nick Foles. No way.
Yeah, you buy the year.
Morning, noon, or night. You eat the year. You eat it.
Exactly.
You eat it.
I agree 100%.
No, you eat the year. Absolutely.
Well, okay, let's see if we agree on this as well. You cover this team. You know how good this team is. I reluctantly admit how good this team is as a fan of a division rival. I look around. We ask this every year. Is this team, whoever the Super Bowl champion is, set up to continue its run? Are we going to see this team around for the next 3 to 4 years?
Yes,
and most of the time,
yeah,
we're wrong, you know?
Yeah, I think we're going to see it. I do.
Too.
I think we're going to see it because I think you got a smart GM who's willing to take risks. I think you got a smart head coach who proved again and again throughout the season that he's willing to take risks. He did it in the Super Bowl. He's willing to adapt. He's willing to show people that he is a person that is not going to adhere to his quote-unquote philosophy just because that's his philosophy. He listens to players. He listens to his assistant coaches. And you have that kind of flexibility. That means you have confidence in what you do. When you have confidence in what you do, that really permeates throughout your locker room. There's a special team that people fell in love with, and they fell in love with each other because of Doug Peterson, because he's willing to listen and adapt.
Yeah, and everybody's under contract, 2 quarterbacks for under $15 million. They look like, to me, the Seattle Seahawks at the beginning of their run. That amounted to 2 Super Bowls, 1 win, but I mean, it was still a run. It was still a sustained period of dominance. That's who they look like to me.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. It's hard. It's hard. I mean, listen, it's hard to get back to the Super Bowl back-to-back. We all know that because of injuries and other things. But I think, when you look at this team, they're set up for long-term success because they're young at the quarterback position, because they're smart in the front office, because they have an ownership group willing to spend money and do things to make the team better. They're good because the head coach is still in his second year and learning.
Hey, Sal, it looked obvious.
I'm just arriving.
What?
Just arriving in Philly here, Will.
What's going on? What are they doing? Are they eating horse manure, sliding up and down poles? What's going on? I don't know how you guys do it in Philadelphia. I've read some disturbing things.
Yeah, well, most of what you read is old BS.
it's a more genteel tea drinking party.
People here are, I think they're still trying to process the idea that life has changed for them. They don't have 5 Super Bowls. This is their first one. This is 3 generations of frustration. You spell fanatic with a PH, but you also spell fatalism in this town with a PH. And I think a great burden has been lifted from these people, and I think they deserve it.
As much as I hate the Philadelphia Eagles, and just because I'm supposed to, their fans, I actually agree with you. It is great to see a team that wanted it that bad, a fan base that wanted it that bad.
Personally, Will,
for
me personally, January 25th, 1993 was the first day I started covering this team. So I just celebrated my 25th anniversary doing it. But it was not just me. It was my wife and children, my family, who have put up with it for 25 years, the long road trips, the long absences, the sacrifices that they made. And while I'm not a rooting fan, quote unquote, I rooted for this story so that my kids and my family, my uncles, my aunts, my cousins, my nephews, my mom and dad, late dad, would be able to say, okay, we got some satisfaction out of it. We got some closure, and we can enjoy it.
Are you retiring, Sal? Don't retire.
No.
We need you around here.
No. I'm just saying, it was a payoff for all the hard work.
No, it's great. That's great sentiments, man. Thank you for sharing those. Thank you for spending some time with me today as well.
Hey, Will, anytime, man. Do a good job, buddy.
Okay. Appreciate it, Sal. That's Sal Palantonio on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. I ran out of time. One thing I wanted to ask Sal was how surprised were the Eagles with the fact that Malcolm Butler was sitting? Alshon Jeffrey was flat out attacking Eric Rowe. But how much notice did they have? Hey, look, 25's on the field. That's not Butler. That's Rowe. I wonder when the Eagles coaching staff looked up and goes, hey, what's going on over there? Attack 25. I'll ask Sal next time. Ask him again. Call him back just off the air. Ask him, how surprised were they? All right, that and what is Nick Foles worth straight ahead on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Hi, everyone. Will Cain here. Support for the Will Cain podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, and your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS consumeraccess.org number 3030. Everybody agrees. You don't trade Nick Foles unless you get blown away. Well, what is getting blown away? What is enough to trade a Super Bowl MVP? It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Just had Sal Palantoni on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. He said, if the Eagles considered a late second round pick for Nick Foles, they would be destroyed. They'd be laughed at. They'd never survive the criticism in Philadelphia. Now, Alex Smith was just traded from the Kansas City Chiefs to the Washington Redskins for a third-round pick and cornerback Kendall Fuller. So let's call that third-round plus. Jimmy Garoppolo was just traded from the New England Patriots to the San Francisco 49ers for a high second-round pick. But you know what? We're going to call that second-round plus because there are many reports out there that the Patriots could have gotten more than a second for Garoppolo had they been willing to trade him to someplace like, for example, Cleveland. So what's Nick Foles worth? Cerruti, what is the value you would go, yeah, I'm willing to trade my insurance policy. I'm willing to trade my optionality. I'm trading one of my two probablys to go in on Carson Wentz, to bank everything on Carson Wentz. What draft slot is enough to give that insurance policy up?
I think it's a first-round pick, at least, right? If Garoppolo got, like you said, a second, but was probably more, you know that this guy's already won a Super Bowl, so they have all the leverage in the world. They don't need to get rid of him. So a team that was coming to me as the Eagles, asking to try to get Nick Foles, they'd have to give up a ton, and that's a first-round pick for me, at least.
Here's Nick Foles talking about his future. Listen.
No, I haven't. I'm not really worried about my future right now. You know, I'm grateful to be a part of the Philadelphia Eagles. I said when I signed with the Eagles, you know, I'm grateful and content in this moment. I'm staying in the moment. I'm not worried about my future right now. There'll be a time and a place to handle all that, but I take a lot of pride in wearing the Philadelphia Eagles jersey, and I just enjoy being here. It's such a great team. I'm excited for Carson Wentz coming back healthy. I get to work with him every day. Dude's a stud, and, you know, I'm just living in the moment, not thinking ahead.
But everyone else is thinking ahead, including the Philadelphia Eagles. There are some reports out there, by the way, I saw this morning that said they would listen to offers. And, of course, you have to listen to offers. I mean, you're a moron if you don't listen to offers. But this morning when I was on First Take, Stephen A. said to me, what you don't appreciate, Will, that me, Stephen A. Smith, having been a reporter for over 20 years, is there's a sucker born every minute. There's somebody willing to give up ridiculous draft capital for a small sample size of the Super Bowl MVP. Stephen A. also said, you know, the old adage, if you have two quarterbacks, you have zero quarterbacks, which, by the way, I completely and utterly reject. I don't know where that idea came about. I don't know why we all treat it as true, but it's one of those things that you repeat over and over vacantly that is not, I don't, quarterback controversy undercuts two guys. Ask the Alabama Crimson Tide about whether or not two quarterbacks means zero. Jalen Hurts isn't cutting the mustard. Bring in Tua. It's been a month, so I can't remember how to say his last name. Tagovailoa? Everybody shoulder shrugs in the control. Tagovailoa. Yeah, they had two. Did that add up to zero? No. You keep two if you could get two. All right, I got this for you. So listen to this. Is there a sucker born every minute? Sam Bradford traded from the Philadelphia Eagles to the Minnesota Vikings for a first and a fourth. By the way, we don't need to overlook the fact that the Eagles were on the selling side of that deal as well. Don't you think they're thinking, lightning strikes twice, hit gold once on this kind of mine? I can hit it again. Eagles sold Bradford for a first and a fourth to Minnesota. Going back in time a little bit farther, Carson Palmer went from Cincinnati to Oakland for the first-round pick, 17th, and a second-round pick. Drew Bledsoe went from the Patriots to the Bills for a first-round pick. And the coup de grace, Jay Cutler went from the Denver Broncos to the Chicago Bears for 2 firsts, a third, and Kyle Orton. Just almost a Herschel Walker-level trade there for the Chicago Bears and the Denver Broncos. You look at this history, and you say to yourself, maybe Stephen A's right. Maybe there's a sucker born every minute. Maybe there's a first-round draft pick out there for the Philadelphia Eagles waiting for Nick Foles, waiting to be spent on Nick Foles.
Who's giving it up?
Well, I think the most obvious example, here's the thing. If we're trying to come to a meeting of the minds, what's too high? What's too low? Who needs it? Tim Hasselbeck was in studio just a little bit earlier. You can catch it on the Will Cain Show podcast on the ESPN app or the Listen tab or on iTunes. Tim Hasselbeck said, who would you put ahead of Nick Foles right now in the market? Kirk Cousins? But after that, who? Not Tyrod Taylor. Not Blake Bortles. Who would you put ahead of Nick Foles? So I ask you this. If the Jacksonville Jaguars want to give you their first-round pick in the late 20s for Nick Foles, how does that sound as value for value?
I think you have to do it if you're Jacksonville.
Wow. That's the whole point. Like, branding is so important. What is your brand? Nick Foles' brand is backup quarterback. He just won the Super Bowl MVP. But how hard is it to divorce yourself from the idea, yeah, but he's a backup quarterback. In your head, you know what he is? Rob Johnson. What did Johnson go from? Jacksonville to Buffalo, right? Rob Johnson in the 90s was a backup for the Jacksonville Jaguars who performed well. What was it, when Mark Brunell was hurt? Came in, performed well, traded to the Buffalo Bills for a first-round pick, the 9th overall. And he was average at best with the Buffalo Bills. So in your head, you're thinking Rob Johnson. You're thinking Jeff Hostetler. By the way, Hostetler's career with the Raiders after he won the Super Bowl with the Giants, average to above average. I mean, not anything to scare you out of it making a deal. Also not world beater. But the point is the branding is what's in your head. And I'll just say this. Go back in Nick Foles' career. Now, I know this is going to sound different than the things I've been saying for the last couple of weeks. But sometimes getting 3 L's in a row can make you reflect in life. If you take the St. Louis Rams year out of Nick Foles' record, if you take that off of his resume, if you take that year out and Jeff Fisher has ruined his fair share of quarterbacks, Nick Foles' years, they look pretty good. The Will Cain Show is reminding that you can listen to all 3 hours of the show on your phone or on the ESPN app. All right, so again, back to the other side of the ball. We give Foles credit, we give Peterson credit, but we need to focus in on the Patriots because there was plenty that they did wrong to make the outcome, once again, is it fair to say once again a Patriots loss? Again, a Patriots loss. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Mike Golick here. You know, ADT, the #1 security company, can now help keep you safe at home and when you're on the go. Get started with the ADT Starter Kit professionally installed for only $49. Plus, you'll get ADT Go, the new family mobile safety app and service with 24/7 emergency response for free with any ADT security system. Go to ADT.com/podcast to learn more today.
Requires 36-month monitoring contract, QSP and Easy Pay. Activation and early termination fees may apply. Certain markets excluded. Licenses available at ADT.com. Additional charge for ADT Go premium services after March 31st, 2018.
Brady lines them up. He's back again. He steps up. He's hit. He stumbles. He is throwing it deep for the end zone, and it is batted around and incomplete. And the game is over. The game is over. The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions.
Down goes New England. Down goes New England. The Philadelphia Eagles beat the New England Patriots 41-33 in Super Bowl 52. Welcomed into the winner's circle of the NFC East. Now we can all yell together. NFC East. We can all celebrate together. The NFC East. By the way, Cerruti, first division in the NFL where all 4 teams are now Super Bowl champions, correct?
So you count this as a win for you?
No, but I'm correct on that, right?
It is. It is.
No other division in the NFL, every team within that division owns a Lombardi trophy.
As you so cleverly put on Twitter last night, that they finally got on the board, the Eagles. Your backhanded compliment to them.
That was my backhanded compliment to Eagles fans. They don't know. They don't know. They were outside drinking and eating horse manure. You think they're in here like listening to rational arguments?
That's the thing
today?
about Sal, by the way, who is like, oh, it's all speculation. There's actually video of that, so it's not speculation.
I just don't. Look, I've told you this before. I've told you guys behind the glass. I hope I told you this listening. There's a level of deviance that I come to respect. Like, if you don't half-heartedly indulge your deviances, I begin to golf clap. Like, you got this weird thing about you, but it's unique and authentic, and you go all the way with it. I begin to respect it to some extent. And so the dude just bananas in the streets of Philadelphia last night who says, you know what? Screw it, guys. I'm going to eat this horse manure. And just behind the horse kneels down with there's a little bit of golf clap for that guy. I mean, think about the hygienic things he had to do later that night, or didn't. By the way, there's a growing number of people out there interested in these kind of topics, apparently. The Willitia is growing. The revolution is sweeping the nation. Now, listen, I've taken a few L's in the last couple days. We'll call it weeks if you want. Specifically, I've taken some L's on the Philadelphia Eagles. But I'm going to tell you something. I tell you what I think, and I'm willing to admit when I'm wrong. What I'm not here to give you is boring, down the middle of the fairway, generic, dime a dozen opinions. I'm telling you, I'm here to tell you what I honestly think, right or wrong. I'll take my lumps, and trust me, I'll celebrate it. And there are more and more people that are interested in having real, authentic conversations. I am excited that we are adding affiliates almost
New affiliate
weekly.
alert. New affiliate alert. New
Almost
affiliate
weekly
alert.
on the Will Cain Show. Today we welcome in the great KTGR in Columbia, Missouri, who added the Will Cain Show. It's 100.5 and 105.1 FM, the home of the Missouri Tigers and the St. Louis Cardinals in Missouri. And we're going to keep adding. Look, you can hate, you can love, but this thing's only headed in one direction. And there's apparently a ton of people out there that are interested in conversations that are real and not afraid of a little disagreement here and there, who are willing to give it, but also willing to take it. All right? That's what we're going to do here. And I'm excited. Thank you. What we got? Like, what we on a pace of? One a day? What are we doing?
Pretty much, yeah.
Real quick, he says, this is what the program director, brilliant man named Matt Michaels out there in Missouri says, Will always has an outsider's opinion on things, whether it comes to the NFL or the NBA. I think that his narrative style is unique. He might remind some, in some ways, of Colin Cowherd. We'll go with the first Will Cain.
Whoa.
First Will Cain.
Can you say that name?
What? Is that like Voldemort?
I don't know.
He who shall not be named? All right, so welcome in Columbia, Missouri, and I'm excited we're going to be welcoming in many more markets. Call your market. If you're listening on SiriusXM or you're listening on the podcast, call your market. Ring them up. Tell them you want the Will Cain Show. Tell them you want to be part of the revolution. All right, we can't make heads or tails of this Malcolm Butler situation. Here's what we've got. Rudy, put it up for me. We know that there are multiple former New England Patriots who are absolutely beside themselves when it comes to the fact that Bill Belichick and Matt Patricia benched Malcolm Butler, who played 98% of the snaps for the New England Patriots this year. Here's Brandon Browner. Played in the Super Bowl against the Seattle Seahawks with the New England Patriots. He said, a locker room was divided pregame, most yards ever given up in a Super Bowl game, and your best defender over the past 3 seasons doesn't get a snap. You were hurt, burnt, where he was needed tonight. Hashtag foolish pride. That's Brandon Browner. Now this is Ty Law, famous New England Patriot. We need to get to the bottom of this Malcolm Butler situation. I'm baffled about this one. We needed that man on the field. And former New England Patriot Rob Ninkovich went on WEEI today and addressed the Malcolm Butler situation. Listen.
I mean, if it was discipline, I don't know if that's the best way to go about it. I mean, it's you need good players on the field to execute. You know, Bill says it all the time. You know, Bill say it in interviews. He'll say coaches don't win games, players do. Coaches lose games. So, you know, at the end of the day, you got to have your best players on the field. And you question if Malcolm not being on the field is that the best option to winning a football game. So, at the end of the day, it is what it is. That's what happened. It's in history now. So, you know, for Malcolm, what's best for him is, you know, he's going to hit free agency. He's going to go to another team here and probably get, you know, paid accordingly. So, you know, I wish nothing but the best for him and, you know, hope that he continues to play at a super high level that we've all seen.
The way this all went down appeared so last minute. I mean, there's Malcolm Butler during America the Beautiful crying his eyes out, not just because he's witness to a beautiful song, but obviously because he got some bad news in the not too distant past. And the Eagles must have looked up in the first quarter and said, what's Eric Rowe doing on the field for every snap? Where's Malcolm Butler? Because they immediately targeted Rowe. They immediately started throwing to Alshon Jeffrey. And Jeffrey lit up the Patriots in the first quarter, first half, until they made an adjustment finally and put Stephon Gilmore on Alshon Jeffrey. And Gilmore did, by the way, a great job of limiting Jeffrey going forward. So what happened? I'm going to tell you this. I'm not jumping on the Browner, Ty Law, Ninkovich criticism at this point because we don't know, man. It sure looks like discipline. That's what it looks like. It cannot be play. It cannot be the nonsense that Patricia and Belichick are telling us today. Those are flat lies. The guy played 98% of the snaps this season. You don't look up and go, you know what? He's not worth one snap in the Super Bowl. It's got to be disciplinary. And that opens you up into, and I know Belichick said it's not. He said it's not disciplinary, right? Will I have that one?
No, he did it after the game last night, and it wasn't that. The audio was pretty terrible. Basically, he was asked, was this a disciplinary situation? He said no, and just said that it was a game plan thing, which is obviously not true.
I don't believe you. I don't believe you, Bill. I don't believe you. So what did he do? That's the next question. And then we can all be all our own amateur commissioners and decide whether or not it's worth subjecting yourself to risk and loss in the Super Bowl for that kind of discipline. By the way, Belichick, he's not telling a lot of truths today, okay? He's not telling a lot of truths today. What's his future with New England Patriots? I'll play some sound for you in just a moment. You can hear this because it's not the truth. And Tom Brady, my guy Max Kellerman said, well, he went over the cliff last night. I got to deal with that. You can tweet the show through the oneairflowers.com Twitter feed at Will Cain Show. Valentine's bouquets come in all shapes and prices, but the best are at 1-800-Flowers.com. Get 24 multicolored roses for only $29.99 or upgrade to 24 red roses for only $10 more. To order, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
The Will Cain Show.
I mean, I guess I could start by apologizing. I'll say I'm sorry if you want. I'll say I'm sorry, Boston, if that's what you need. You see, the Prophet's going to lock it in today. I am taking the Patriots in the Super Bowl over the Philadelphia Eagles. Thus, I fear I have imperiled the hopes of the New England Patriots. That's the way it goes sometimes. You win some, you lose some. All right? That's the way it is. If that makes you want to shrink up in the corner and go into the fetal position, go someplace else. I got it wrong, okay? I got it wrong. Well, in the divisional round, in the conference championship, and in the Super Bowl. The Philadelphia Eagles single-handedly gave me a bunch of L's. I never bet on them. I never believed in them. I didn't believe in Nick Foles. And I've never been so happy for a guy to prove me wrong. I doubted Nick Foles every step of the way. He made a dummy out of me. Bravo, Nick Foles. At least you're a Texan, and that softens the blow.
Vegas made a lot of money off guys like you.
No, Vegas lost a ton of money.
But off guys like you, they did not. But yes, most people who took the Eagles last night, they got murdered.
I think Vegas took a bath on this Super Bowl, didn't they? Yes.
There was a couple huge bets on the Eagles.
Couple $1 million bets, seven-figure bets. Yeah, I think what I read is Vegas took a big bath on the Eagles winning this Super Bowl. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Will Cain Show is presented by Progressive Insurance. Protecting your small business is a big deal. Cover what you've worked so hard for. Visit progressivecommercial.com. We were just wondering about this Malcolm Butler situation. And to be honest, I got to tell you, you hear Brandon Browner, former Patriot, Ty Law, former Patriot, Rob Ninkovich, former Patriot, all going, Bill, you got some splaining to do. But we might just pump our brakes till we find out what went wrong here. Here's Malcolm Butler. He seems to be as in the dark as anyone else about why he didn't get to play any defensive snaps last night.
I don't know. They gave up on him. It is what it is. I don't know what it was. I mean, I guess I wasn't playing good, or they didn't feel comfortable. I don't know. You know what I mean? I could have changed that game though.
Nonsense. He knows. He knows. Right?
Why would he? So he's completely absolving himself from any blame by saying he has no idea why he didn't play?
Yeah, he knows. And that's what I'm telling you. There's no way this was for disciplinary reasons. The guy doesn't go from playing 98% of the snaps in the regular season to 0 snaps in the Super Bowl because his play suddenly declined enough that Eric Rowe should not only start ahead of him, but take all of his snaps. That doesn't add up. It's disciplinary. And then at some point, I got to be honest, you start wondering if Belichick and Patricia are protecting Butler from the reasons. Like, who does it help to not explain this? Belichick and Patricia look awful because everybody sees the nonsense on the wall. How much easier would it be for Belichick to go, you know what? Brandon got busted breaking curfew. I mean, not Brandon. Malcolm got Butler breaking curfew. Or Malcolm did X. Or Malcolm did Y. And we don't do that in New England. How much easier would that be?
But what benefit does Belichick have by not saying that?
Protecting the player.
But what does he care? I mean, he's a free agent anyway.
I mean, you heard Carlton when he called in. This guy allegedly colluded with Sean Payton to devalue him. You know, they try to trade him away early, during the preseason. And so, like, why would he protect him?
Yeah. Leave the conspiracy stuff to Carlton, Nuno. He's got sabotage down.
He played 98% of the snaps, so he obviously got over it.
So clearly it's disciplinary. It's not about play. Listen to Louis Riddick, ESPN NFL analyst. He says something's not right.
There's just a lot surrounding this football team right now in terms of at key positions. There's I don't want to say there's drama, but there is some drama. There's drama with Bill. There's drama with Tom. Rob gets hurt. Coordinators are leaving. So if you're looking at that, I mean, look, Rob Gronkowski's used to playing with the greatest quarterback of all time. If there's any uncertainty about him coming back, you think he's going to say, hey, yeah, I can't wait till next year? He's going to be a little apprehensive about it, too. I'm sure there's a lot of players that are in that locker room right now coming off a loss like this. The Malcolm Butler situation. There's something's going on there, because people are, obviously you lose the Super Bowl here. I don't know what that feels like, but I can imagine it's devastating. But there's just some other things that are going on that can really tear at the fabric of a football team that you can see coming out in some of their emotions right now that really Mr. Kraft is going to have to kind of get together with his lieutenants and kind of really settle down and see where they're heading.
Let me tell you 2 things that are true and 1 thing that's not true. First of all, these 2 things I'm about to say are absolute truths. Bill Belichick knows football. He knows who's the best player to put on the field. He knows Malcolm Butler's better than Eric Rowe. He knows that. Let's not pretend that he all of a sudden forgot how to coach football. He all of a sudden forgot how to judge talent. He knew that, okay? What was number 2 I was going to say? I had 2 truths. I just turned into Rick Perry. He knows football. That was 1. Well, let's get to the part, the thing he does that's not true. He won't tell us the truth. He's not telling us truth. I'm going to give you an example of that. Hey, Bill, are you going to be back to be the head coach of the New England Patriots next year? Listen to this.
So you say that you will be back coaching next year? Is that what you said?
I said I've addressed that question.
Would you mind repeating it just so we have it straight?
Yeah, look, I'm going to have to answer the same question every day. It's ridiculous.
Well, for those of us who may not have heard, would you mind?
All right, next question.
All right, see, that's not true. So here's what we know. Bill Belichick knows football. He's going to do what's best to win the football game. I'm sorry, Carlton. I'm sorry, Nuno. I don't buy the sabotage argument. He knows Malcolm Butler is better. He's not playing him for some other reason. And I don't think it's sabotage. I think it's discipline. And he's not willing to tell us the truth. Just like on this, what's your future as the coach of the New England Patriots thing. He's not telling us the truth. He's willing to lie to us about it. All right, straight ahead. We'll talk to a guy who says Nick Foles has to be the starter next year.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I feel like I'm on top of the world.
Disclaimer, you will not be transported to the top of the world. In the unlikely event you find yourself at the Arctic Circle, seek shelter from the elements immediately to avoid frostbite and or hypothermia. Geico will not be responsible if you find yourself in a cave or crevasse with a lonely abominable snowman, who in all likelihood will force you to play games including but not limited to Go Fish, Charades, Chinese Checkers, or his personal favorite, Red Rover, send Yeti on over. Geico is not liable for any damages, either physical or emotional.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
This is the Will Cain Podcast on ESPN Radio.
Okay, let me ask you this. Would you rather have Sam Darnold, USC quarterback, probable top 5 pick in the NFL draft, or a Super Bowl MVP? Would you rather have Josh Rosen, UCLA quarterback, top 5 pick in the NFL draft, or a Super Bowl MVP? Would you rather have Baker Mayfield, Heisman Trophy winner, top 10 quarterback in the NFL draft, or a Super Bowl MVP? It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. What is Nick Foles worth? That's the question. After leading the Philadelphia Eagles to a 41-33 win in Super Bowl 52 and a veritable riches of quarterbacks inside that Philadelphia locker room, they can hope for, and I mean they should hope for, a quarterback controversy. Because I don't care in what walk of life you are in, 2 is always better than 1. Don't give me platitudes and cliches that if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have 0. Nonsense. You have 2 quarterbacks, you have 2 quarterbacks. You have insurance. If Carson Wentz doesn't come back from that knee injury the way he was, if Carson Wentz regresses, you got a Super Bowl MVP waiting there. So if you trade him, if you trade Nick Foles, what would you need for him? Would you do it for a third? No. Would you do it for a second? Sal Paolantonio said that's laughable. How about a first? Would you do it for any of those top quarterbacks in the NFL draft? Cerruti, I ask you that. Is he better than? Is he worth? Would you rather have Nick Foles than those top quarterbacks in the draft this spring?
It depends on what team I am. If I'm at the top of the draft and I'm the Jets or I'm the Browns, I want one of the young guys. If I'm the Jags or the Vikings or a team that's kind of already there but needs a quarterback, I'd want Nick Foles.
That's the value I think we've settled on. Nick Foles is worth a late first-round pick. The deal that makes sense for both the Eagles and for some team is if you're the Jaguars, the Bills, the Vikings, you're in the 20s, and you're a quarterback away. Nick Foles has proven to be the kind of quarterback that you can win a Super Bowl with. Job well done by Nick Foles last night. Job well done is brought to you by Napa Auto Parts. With quality parts and know-how, Napa Auto Parts can help you keep your ride running longer, stronger. That's Napa know-how. So people around the office today were like, what are you doing on your show today? I see on your rundown here you got a basketball guy. You got an NBA guy. You got an NBA guy coming on to talk about Nick Foles. You got an NBA guy coming on to talk about the NFL. So that's right. You know why? Because when I woke up this morning, I had a Unabomber manifesto of hot takes about what should happen with Nick Foles, mostly in video form. I had a text from one Ryan Hollins on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, one of the hosts of The Locker Room on ESPN Radio, who was spinning me some craziness this morning when you woke up, Ryan.
My man, Will, I'm just so fired up right now because everyone's going and they're looking at the glitz and glamour of the game. They're in love with Carson Wentz, but guess what? It's still a business. There's a business of basketball. There's a business of football, and you've got to look for the future. I'm a 49er fan. We did this to Alex Smith, and it just happened to Alex Smith again. Alex Smith was playing career football. What did the 49ers do? Traded him midseason, started Kaepernick, made it to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but whoa. Let me stop your rationale right there.
Talk to me.
Kaepernick had a nice season. He took him to the Super Bowl. He had a couple of good years for the 49ers. In retrospect, and this is purely a football debate. We're not doing any of the social issue stuff when it comes to this. Don't you think that was the wrong call? Didn't Smith turn out to be the one with the longer, better career? So in your analogy, Smith is Wentz, Kaepernick is Foles, right?
No, not necessarily. I'm saying that it happens, and in the business, it comes around. In my mind, if you're an Eagles fan, you got to win now. The window is not big to look for the future. And I know Carson Wentz is the quarterback of the future. But guess how many games has Carson Wentz won in the playoffs? 0. How many Super Bowls has he won? Listen, brother, I wasn't a believer of Foles a week ago. I said it's the Vikings. They beat the Vikings.
Right.
Guess what he did against? He outplayed Tom Brady, and most importantly, he outplayed Belichick last night. That run-pass offense, the system that he's in, that's here to stay, man.
But what are you saying, Ryan? Are you saying they should trade Wentz?
Listen, hear me out, because everyone, they're dogging me out right now. I'm getting dogged out right now. I trade Wentz. I get the house for him. You're going to get the house for Wentz. His value is about as high as it's going to be. Carson Wentz may never win a Super Bowl in his career. You know right now you can win a Super Bowl with Nick Foles. You bring in some first-rounders. You get something. I'm not sure what you get in return, but you can shore up a couple holes on that defense. You can jazz up this free agency in the offseason, and you can make a strong run at next year's Super Bowl and come back-to-back because you got a guy who you know now You know, Will, you can't even argue this, can bring it home and win it for you.
Yeah, but Jeff Hostetler brought it home. That didn't mean you sell on Phil Simms. That didn't mean you trade Phil Simms because Jeff Hostetler won the Super Bowl. He's still Jeff Hostetler, and Phil Simms is still Phil Simms. I mean,
this is a different era of football, Will. This is a different era, brother.
Okay. Well, okay, let's stick with the Kaepernick. Let's stick with the Kaepernick Alex Smith argument. In retrospect, didn't they make the wrong football call? Wouldn't have trading Carson Wentz. I got your analogy. You're the one that brought this up. Would be like trading Alex Smith, right? But that was the wrong call for the Niners.
It wasn't. You want to know what's wrong with the Niners? We got rid of Harbaugh. Harbaugh was committed to our offense and defensive line, and that's where we won our games. So Kaepernick only had to make one read. He ran a run option. We could pound it up the gut, and then he had one or two options passing-wise, and we were really good doing that. So when you took the power away from Harbaugh, Kaepernick was no longer needed in the 49ers system, and that's the wall that Kaepernick ran into. When you started asking him, you paid him that money, you asked him to be a pocket passer, you asked him to rely on his footwork, it's not who he was. Okay, we're just talking football.
So you're telling me a week ago you were a doubter, even after the victory over the Minnesota Vikings. But his performance in the Super Bowl was over. You went from doubter to trade Carson Wentz off of one game. You went from doubter to give him the whole team in one game.
I wasn't necessarily doubter. He had my attention. He had my attention. We've seen the one-trick ponies. We've seen the guy, hey, man, he's a cool player. He's a baller. But can he do it in the big game? I did not think, not in a million years, and you can't even say you got this dude, that he was going to go toe-to-toe with Brady and Willitia. And, I mean, this wasn't a lucky win. This wasn't a fluke. He went out and balled. He didn't hold anything back. And, I mean, he aired it out, dude. He was putting those things in the breadbasket.
That's former NBA player and one of the hosts of The Locker Room on ESPN Radio, Ryan Hollins on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. I got to run here in a second, Ryan. But, I'm going to reel you in. Okay, let's meet in the middle.
Talk to me,
don't trade Wentz. My argument is keep both of them. Because there are some unknowns when it comes to Wentz. His health, his ability. I think you have a small sample size. And truth is, I think there's unknowns with Nick Foles as well. I don't think you can say, as far as you are saying, bank the whole future on Nick Foles, trade Carson Wentz. So I've got two maybes that I want to put together to give me a better prospect of having a definite. So if I have both of them on my team, okay, if we follow my path,
you
think you start Nick Foles week 1?
Dude, you're in between. You sound like Alabama right now. The other kid has to transfer.
Yeah, but it worked for Alabama. You keep using analogies that help my argument. Alabama having two quarterbacks worked out.
Hey, strike while the iron is hot. Strike while this is the time where you get the house form. This is the time where you trade Blake Griffin and you get a first, second, Avery Bradley, and Tobias Harris, okay? You get some ballers back, all right?
Okay.
So, look, this is a decision with your head and not your heart, okay? I mean, come on. You got to look for the future. I know you don't want to. Nobody wants that to happen, all right? Look, Drew Brees got traded. He got out of there, all right? And the guy went on involved. You don't know what can happen, but you got a proven guy.
As a Dallas Cowboy fan, I pray that you become GM of the Philadelphia Eagles. I pray. Listen, man, your brand of crazy is just my brand, so you're welcome on the show anytime. Thanks, man.
Hey, Will, much appreciated, brother, anytime.
Take care. I happen to think, guys, that the 49ers analogy and the Alabama analogy helps me, not him. I think Ryan was advocating my side in retrospect. All right. Might the Seattle Seahawks be the model for the Philadelphia Eagles? Are they the new Seahawks? I'll tell you straight ahead. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Hi, everyone. Will Cain here. Support for the Will Cain podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, and your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS consumeraccess.org number 3030.
This is Will Cain.
You give me the greatest football player of all time in Tom Brady. You give me the greatest coach of all time in Bill Belichick. And you give me 2 weeks, I feel like you would be a moron to bet against the New England Patriots. All right, so I'm a moron. That's it. M-O-R-O-N, moron, spells will. I was wrong. And the main thing I was wrong about was the greatest coach of all time getting out-coached by a second-year head coach. The main thing I was wrong about was Bill Belichick getting out-coached by Doug Peterson in Super Bowl 52 as the Philadelphia Eagles beat the New England Patriots 41-33. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Hey, fellas, Valentine's bouquets come in all shapes and prices, but the best are at 1-800-Flowers.com. Get 24 multicolored roses for only $29.99. Or you can upgrade to 24 red roses for only $10 more. So to order, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN and get it done. So, number one commercial, Super Bowl commercial, my judgment, first of all, Tide. Tide wins. This is a Tide ad. That was the best, man.
And the dude from Stranger Things, funny guy. I was all about it.
Genius. Like, whoever's in that ad agency, they need some slaps on the back. A little extra scotch in that tumbler this evening. Because what they did, and obviously because they did it so early, they co-opted every ad. Every ad, almost, you had to look at it and go, is this a Tide ad? That's some clean clothes that guy's wearing. Tide ran away with it. I would say secondarily, ranking number 2 for me, who knew that all the Mannings were like Golden Globe level actors? I mean, Eli, who has the personality of a pancake in most interviews, was absolutely stunning as an actor. And it's not even the Dirty Dancing part at the end with Odell. It was the weird ones that led up to it. Like the minute I saw him, he was like explaining at the water cooler how good he is at tetherball. I'm good at tetherball. I was like, look at Eli. He's got all the same chops Peyton has. How does that work? The more boring you are in real life, the more ready you're to let it fly once the cameras start rolling?
I think he's good at making fun of how kind of nerdy he is. Like, he embraces it.
That's what he's doing? Self-awareness?
Yeah, like everybody kind of thinks he's a dork, so he just plays a dork.
Gosh, we ought to get Cooper Manning an advertising gig and just confirm that all the Mannings are just actors. Did I miss any? You guys liked Bubba? You were big on the Alexa commercial. Is that what you liked?
Yeah, well, I would agree. I think the Tide Pod was probably number 1, definitely the most memorable.
Excuse me, not Tide Pod. PSA to the children out there: don't eat Tide Pods.
Pod, sorry, Tide ad. But I thought the Alexa one was funny with all the different voices filling in. Anthony Hopkins and whoever else they had.
Gordon Ramsay. It was funny.
Gordon Ramsay was good. Yeah,
Hopkins is so creepy, so good at creepy. I'll tell you what else is creepy. For anybody that's a fan of a team in the NFC, and certainly anybody that's a fan of any team in the NFC East, which would include myself, Bubba, who's also a Cowboy fan, Nuno, who's a New York Giants fan, I think we got a long road to hoe here, fellas. Long road to hoe? Long road to hoe. It's a farming thing, right? Row to hoe, not road to hoe.
We have to dump that? I feel weird.
Anyways, it's going to be hard for us because I'm afraid these Philadelphia Eagles are set up for the future. They're set up to make a run. This isn't a one-year fluke. We ask this after every Super Bowl. Is this team going to be around for the next 4 to 5 years? Is this the next dynasty in a making after one Super Bowl? And I'm not saying dynasties, but I'm telling you what they remind me of is not a dynasty, but they remind me of the Seattle Seahawks, who had a good 4 to 5 year run. I think, by the way, it's safe to say that run is over. Legion Boom is over. And that culminated in 2 Super Bowls for the Seahawks and 1 Super Bowl championship. So by no means is that a dynasty. But that was a good 4 to 5 years where every year you had to count on the Seattle Seahawks being a Super Bowl contender. Now look at the comparison. You have a lights-out defense. You have everybody of note under contract. The only notable free agents would be, and they're not insignificant, but I also don't think you'd call them linchpins. Darren Sproles and LeGarrette Blount at the running back position. Trey Burton, I guess he's the 3rd best quarterback on their roster, tight end. Nigel Bradham, linebacker. Patrick Robertson, cornerback. And here's the biggest one, Brandon Graham, who had 9.5 sacks and the key strip sack on Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. So Brandon Graham's the real big one in that entire list. But otherwise, everybody signed. All the wide receivers. All the defensive ends, except for Brandon Graham, which, by the way, they have a deep rotating cast of defensive linemen. They have only $15 million tied up in the quarterback position. Nick Foles makes $7.6. Carson Wentz makes $7.2 million. Nick Foles is tied up for another year. Carson Wentz for another 2 years. So they're essentially playing Carson Wentz on the rookie contract and Nick Foles on cheap. That's how you build a contender that sticks around. If they even had free agents like Brandon Graham, they have to resign. They're over the cap. The Eagles are over the cap by about $7 million. And they would be over the cap, I think, leading the NFL and most over the cap. But $7 million to keep this core together, they can figure that out. This looks like the Seahawks of what would it have been? 2000. When did that run start? 2010? 2011, 12? This is something that Cowboys fans, Giants fans, Redskins fans, NFC fans are going to have to contend with. I'm afraid this Eagle team is going nowhere. And the depth at the quarterback position that they have is going to make it all the much more so. They can take my route and keep the insurance policy of Nick Foles. Or they can take others, the path of others and say, sell them at a peak, get more draft picks. Or they can take the crazy town path of Ryan Hollins, who was just on our show, former NBA player, and trade Wentz for an ungodly amount of picks and bank on Foles. I wouldn't really recommend that. But the Seahawks, that's what this team looks like to me. And that looks like a problem for the NFC. 888-729-3776. That's 888-SAY-ESPN. Do you think the Eagles are going to be around for the next couple years? Is this going to be a contender that everyone has to deal with for the next several years? Straight ahead, did Tom Brady hit the cliff last night? I know it sounds crazy, but trust me, it's not really my question. It's someone else's. And we're going to answer it because I guess this is Crazy Town Hour. That's what we do in the 5. Just address craziness. Somebody needs to set the record straight. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Mike Golick here. ADT, the #1 security company, can now help keep you safe at home and when you're on the go. Get started with the ADT Starter Kit professionally installed for only $49. Plus, you'll get ADT Go, the new family mobile safety app and service with 24/7 emergency response for free with any ADT security system. Go to ADT.com/podcast to learn more today.
Requires 36-month monitoring contract, QSP and EasyPay. Activation and early termination fees may apply. Certain markets excluded. Licenses available at ADT.com. Additional charge for ADT Go premium services after March 31st, 2018.
All right, I'm super angry. I'm going to work myself into this. This is all legit. So this is the rule on this show. There's one simple rule. Bubba, what's the rule?
Save it for on the air.
Cerruti, what's the rule?
We'll do it live.
Liam, what's the rule? Our boss Liam just walked in. Liam, what's the rule?
We'll do it live.
We do it live. We do it on the air. Okay, so you got a new nickname, Commercial Nuno. It's Commercial Break Nuno comes out. All right? Here's what happens. I look up to these guys and say, guess what just happened on Twitter? Some guy says, oh, you are Will Cain. It's hot takes. How dare you compare the Eagles to the Seahawks? Like, that's bananas. It's a perfect comparison. Because what? The Seahawks bar was so high? Because they made one extra Super Bowl and lost? And Nuno looks up and goes, is it though? What? Commercial Break Nuno. If you have a take, if you think I'm wrong, you hit the button and you tell me into the microphone on the air. Now tell me. Now I know I just barked you down and I got really upset. So I'm going to, hold on. Nuno, I'm going to ask, would you please share with me your Seattle Seahawks take?
Pretend it's a commercial, Nuno.
Pretend it's a commercial.
All right. The thing I was saying is if Wentz was the quarterback and they had one with him, I can see that. But they had Russell Wilson. Like, do I know if Wentz is going to get them back there? No.
But, okay, that's somewhat reasonable. However, first of all, I want a cattle prod. I want something electric. I want, when he does this during the commercial break, I want to hit a button and I want him shocked. Okay? And then I want it all on the air. By the way, will you also give us your Eagles hot take you did a little bit earlier?
It's just not the Eagles, but the Jets. Like, how dumb does the fan base have to be that you have to spell the team's name? Like, what, you don't know who you're rooting for, so you got to spell it? Yes. Like, let's come up with a name. And, oh, by the way, the Empire State Building, that's goes. Despicable.
This is good.
Putting those Eagle colors there. What, you haven't been able to use the Jet colors, so you wanted to make sure you didn't run out?
Work the body.
Yes, Commercial Break Nuno is getting warmed up now. You think they just use the Jets light bulbs at the Empire State Building? They're like, do we have green? Like, well, actually, they don't have Jets light bulbs, right? When's the last time they lit that thing up for the Jets? 60s.
Exactly. So, like, it was disgusting. Don't ever do that.
Commercial Break Nuno. Yes. I still think you're wrong. I think the Eagles-Seahawks comparison is perfect. I think the fact that Wentz wasn't the guy who won it for them, they still have two probablys, two maybes. So you're telling me after the Seahawks won, they had one definite with Russell Wilson. You got a franchise quarterback, and that's the difference. The Eagles don't have one definite. That's it?
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a reasonable response. I still think it's a perfect comparison because I don't think the Seahawks bar was that high. It's another Super Bowl appearance. By the way, one in which you lose. I didn't compare them to the Patriots. Hey, the Eagles are the next Patriots or the next Cowboys. You want me to go back to that one? Everybody likes my Cowboys analogies. I got one for every scenario in life. I went with a very sensible one. The Seahawks. 4 to 5 years of contention, one extra Super Bowl appearance that you lose. Is that unreasonable to think that's what the Eagles could do? No. Despite commercial break Nuno.
We also didn't know that Russell Wilson was this like awesome franchise quarterback when they first started. He was just kind of like a guy who was trying not to screw things up when the defense was going to win most of the games for them. And that's kind of what the Eagles were in the playoffs this year until Foles lit it up in the Super Bowl.
Do you think Foles outplayed Tom Brady? Careful. Just be careful what you do here.
I think he did. I think he did.
He won the Super Bowl.
3 touchdowns, 1 receiving. And here's the thing, and you made fun of me before the show today, but I said he caught, and everybody was saying this, but he did catch the pass, and Brady had a drop. So
that's how we define who was outplayed who.
He outcaught him at the very least.
Well, he outplayed him at wide receiver, correct. But at the position of quarterback,
3 touchdown passes.
Tom Brady broke
a couple
the record.
Of them dimes.
505 yards.
Listen, a lot of those were yards at the end of the game too, when they were dumping down to Gronk. So some of those were fraudulent yards. Where Foles, he was lighting up, and I know, listen, no Malcolm Butler, he was lighting up that secondary. He was playing like Joe Flacco did when Joe Flacco was like out of his mind.
I mean, let me tell you something that the audience doesn't know about Cerruti. You fashion yourself as this nuanced, context-based sports opinionists.
But
and I see you, and you are stealing takes from Dan Z and from Max Kellerman. This is Max Kellerman this morning on First Take.
Tom Brady, is he going to hit the cliff? Look, there was enough there that I understand why Bill Belichick looked at Tom Brady and said, I want to hang on to Jimmy Garoppolo. The greatest coach and maybe the greatest GM who ever lived looked at Brady and said, I want to keep that other guy. And it means Belichick is seeing things in practice, etc., that are certain warning flags for him. And I also saw that in yesterday's game.
The cliff!
How dare you put me in that camp?
So wait. In the record-setting 505 yards of passing, almost bring them back on yet another comeback, single-handedly carry the Patriots to contention in that game, while the New England Patriots defense gives up 41 points. Tom Brady showed cracks last night. Tom Brady reached the edge of his cliff last night.
First off, stop putting words in my mouth. I'm not saying what Max is saying. Brady had an awesome game. You asked me who outplayed who, and I thought Foles outplayed Brady. I didn't say Brady sucked. I said he just got outplayed. That's okay.
Foles played great. I'm taking nothing away from Foles.
Why are we not discrediting the Eagles defense for giving up all these yards to the Patriots offense?
We should be.
Why doesn't it go both ways?
We should be.
So then come to my side then.
My point is that Brady carried that entire team. He got nothing else in that entire game except for his performance. The Eagles, you can say what they did about Nick Foles, but they happened to get a strip sack when it mattered. The defense, you're right, wasn't good for 95% of the game. But for the 5% that mattered, when the game was on the line, they did turn back into the Eagles defense that they were all season.
Why are you not blaming Tom Brady for not holding on to the ball in that situation? That's not his fault. It was right in his face. So he didn't fumble, and Foles didn't fumble, Brady did, and Foles caught a touchdown pass that Brady dropped.
Why do you hate Tom Brady?
I love Tom Brady. I just don't worship Tom Brady like you do.
This is mutiny. This is I've got commercial break.
You worship at the altar of Brady and Tom versus time.
Commercial
you want to
break.
be Tom Brady.
I can't hear you. I've got
you want to stop eating strawberries, and you want to do this avocado icing, and you want to live your best life. Just because you're in love with Tom Brady doesn't mean that he can't be criticized.
He can't be criticized off of his performance last night. That's where I think you're bananas.
He had a couple errors that Foles didn't have.
550 yards of
a
record-setting
drop pass.
I want you to become commercial break Cerruti, and I want you on air. Okay, less Cerruti, more Nuno. That's the deal going forward. Okay, you guys. I think you hate greatness. That's what I think's happened here. How could you criticize? I didn't say Tom Brady's not open for criticism, but if you find yourself waking up today and saying, I saw some things last night, I saw some edges to the cliff. You didn't say it. I got it, Cerruti. You didn't say it. I'm separating you and Max on this one. But if you wake up today and say things like that, and I think if you say Nick Foles outplayed him, you're toeing the line, buddy. You're close to a cliff argument. Okay? You're almost there. So you can nuance your way best you can around that. But Nick Foles played great. He was outplayed by Tom Brady. The only reason Tom Brady, the New England Patriots were in that game was of Tom Brady. I need a break. Let's go to break. Whatever we talk about next will be much less tense. Okay, the big game breakdown is brought to you by Jared, the Gallery of Jewelry, turning feelings into jewelry. That's why he went to Jared. All right, coming up. Oh, yeah, the catch thing. Oh, great. Yeah, that'll be calm. NFL doesn't know what a catch is ever. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. I'm willing to listen to your calls. I'm willing to listen to you talk about me being moronic and wrong on the Eagles. I'm willing to take my medicine. But every once in a while, you just need a friendly voice. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app, presented by Progressive Insurance. Every once in a while, you just need someone like yourself. Dennis, in Philadelphia, but a kindred spirit of mine. What's up, Dennis?
Listen, Will, I need 30 seconds. I'm going to make it quick. I'm a Cowboys fan living in Philly. And I'm glad for them, I really am, because they think that us is always go back to 95. Well, they didn't have nowhere to go back to. So for the next 10 years, when Wentz don't make it back to the Super Bowl, they could be appreciative that any given Sunday, anything can happen. They'll have this day to go back from for the next 40 years. You feel me? But this is the thing. You have to tell the world and everybody around me in the city that the Cowboys have a better roster. And it was 10-6 without Zeke, and head on, we could have beat them twice this year. So what you think about that?
I think it's awesome that you call the day after the Philadelphia Eagles win a Super Bowl talking about the Cowboys should have beat them twice this year. And I'm not even going to get mad at you. You know I'm not. This is your safe space, Dennis, right here on the Will Cain Show. This is it. This is the Cowboys' safe space. But we got to be honest, Dennis. They just won a Super Bowl with their backup left tackle, backup middle linebacker, backup quarterback, and a host of running backs that couldn't even hold a candle to Zeke, or for that matter, probably not even to Alfred Morris. So I got to give them some credit. These guys are going to be around, Dennis, and I'm scared about it. They're not. This isn't your one and done Super Bowl contender. Teams like the Cowboys, teams like the Redskins, the Giants, they're going to have to get better. They can't hope for Philly to regress to the mean. We're going to need Dak and Zeke to be who they were last year. Zeke on? That was
the game.
What's that?
Brandon Graham beat Shaq Mason. That was the game.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, yeah, they did put up 41 points, before that. But I get you, Dennis. Hang in there. Don't get in the middle of a bunch of Philly fans eating horse manure or something like that. Things can go crazy in there. And God. Wait, is he still there? I want to ask him one question.
I'm still here.
Do you wear your Cowboys jersey around Philadelphia?
Listen, the last game I went to, Tony broke his collarbone in Philly. We won that game, took over our section right there in the end zone. I'm not mad. I'm happy for him because I'm going to root on and keep keeping on.
But you can stay safe with that jersey on in that section. All right, Dennis. Thanks for the call.
All right, brother.
The Will Cain Show is reminding you if you miss any of the show, including why I think the Eagles should keep Nick Foles, and if the Eagles are the new Seahawks, every hour is available in the Listen tab of the ESPN app. Now, listen. I think what Zach Ertz did was a touchdown. I think it was a catch. And look, the Chris Clement catch, that one's a little sketchier. But all in all, we got to get this stuff right. I think the NFL got it right. I think those were touchdowns, but that doesn't mean they know what the hell they're talking about. Here's Zach Ertz first on his catch, 3 steps, fumble in the end zone, but it's a touchdown.
I mean, it wasn't even my thought process that it wasn't a touchdown. I was shocked that they were reviewing it. I caught the ball. I had it for 3 steps. I clearly reached for the goal line. That was overturned, man. I would have been shocked.
I agree. You caught it. You took 3 steps. You reached over the end zone. It bounces off the ground. You re-catch it. That sounds exactly like the description of the Dez Bryant play. Exactly. You caught it. You took 3 steps. You reached over the end zone. It bounced with your hands on the ground. You re-caught it. They're virtually identical. If you're going to split hairs about one guy's steps were consecutive in the same direction while Dez twisted, you want to get... That's bananas, man. Jesse James also. That's a catch. All 3 of them. That's the point. All of them are catches. Jesse James knee touches. He reaches across, hits the ground after it crosses the plane, and the ball bobbles. We all know what a catch is, but you don't, NFL. You made the right call last night, by the way, which I think is an admission that the other 2 were wrong calls. Don't legalese me. Don't rule book me. Don't turn to page 48, subsection C, numeral 3 to show me the difference in those plays. They're the same. And you can't tell me that if this one's a touchdown, a catch and a touchdown, the other 2 are not. They are. They're all the same. How about this? I'm willing to vote this. Roger Goodell said on Go Look and Wingo last week they're going to revisit the catch rule this offseason. They recognize that it's a mess and they got to revisit it. Can I make a proposal? Or actually, I want to second a proposal. This is Drew Bledsoe, former New England Patriot quarterback. Drew Bledsoe's proposal on how to revamp the catch rule. I want to second this motion, and I hope that this becomes the new NFL rule on what's a catch. Here he was this morning on Go Look and Wingo.
It's the 6-year-old rule. I think in New York they need to have a panel of 6-year-olds sitting in a room, and when one of these plays comes up, they just put the play on and they ask a group of 6-year-olds, "Hey, did he catch it?" Like, "Yeah, he caught it." "Okay, well, that's a catch." "Hey, did he catch it?" "No, he dropped it." "Okay, then that's not a catch." I think it'd be way simpler than what they're trying to do now.
I think it would be way more accurate, too. Let's move from the NFL catch rule to the 6-year-old rule. Apparently, Golick has his own version of that, which is the bar rule. Go into any bar, non-affiliated fan of whatever team's playing, and ask, was that a catch or not a catch? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Majority rules. Whether or not it's the drunk at the end of the bar rule or the 6-year-old rule, it's better than what we got. I'm going to do this carefully. You disagree with this, Rudy? Where are you on this one?
That's all well and fine, and it's funny, and it's cool to be like, oh, yeah, put a bunch of 6-year-olds or drunk dudes in a room and figure it out. You need a rule. There needs to be specific rules about what is and isn't a catch, right? Like, because otherwise it's way too vague.
But we have specific rules.
We do, and they're wrong, and they need to be amended.
No, that's the problem. You can't write this in a way. You can't. What they do, it's like the law. It's like criminal law. You know that the federal government can't even get its arms around how big the criminal code is? Like, they don't know, man. They just don't even have any idea how many other laws there are. They've put in commissions and studies together of people to try to figure out, well, how big's the criminal code? How many laws do we have? It's just, because they just keep writing.
So you think they get in trouble? You think this needs to be like the college football playoff where they don't actually give you a set of criteria? It's just like changes every year because they don't want to be pinned down into one thing?
All I know is when they're confused, they keep writing. More commas, more phrases will help pin down what a catch is. When the point is all 3 of these are catches. I don't begrudge what happened last night because I think definitely the Ertz catch and most likely the Clement catch were catches. But so was the Dez catch. And so was the Jesse James catch. And you can tell me that nobody cares about those right now, but I'm telling you, you will when it goes the other way one day. If they don't get their arms around this and they're not consistent about it. And yeah, I think a gut level 6-year-old drunk guy standard is probably going to be more consistent than this legalese full of commas. All right. It's been the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. It's been a fun one. Go download the podcast. Tell your friends about it. Spain and Fitz is up next.
Thank you for listening to the Will Cain Podcast. You can listen to the Will Cain Show live weekdays at 3 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app. The Will Cain Podcast.